gonna start beatboxing? All right.
That's a badass little intro.
Yeah, you know what? I love that song, man. That's one of my favorite rap groups, The Far Side. Shout out to Fat Lip, my childhood friend, Fat Lip. That's one thing about growing up in L.A., man. You end up knowing so many people as kids, and they go up to do stuff.
You know, Bryan Cranston, for God's
he said that from Bacon.
He was my LAPD police explorer sergeant.
Nice. And
Bryan
Cranston. He grew up to be
now he don't know my
big
name.
Star. He
don't know my name.
Yeah, now he's acting funny.
Yeah.
You know, he don't know nobody.
Yeah, he act like, he don't remember that time I gave him a ride home.
Right. There you go. You never know, though. Another guy that I went to school with, and ended up finding out years later he was a huge rock star, was a young man named Saul Hudson. And he used to sit, we had some classes, math, that kind of stuff. And because our names, you have to sit in alphabetical order. Holt and Hudson.
Right.
So we'd always be in the yearbook. I'm like one aisle over him or one row over him when we sit in class. Anyway, he grew up to be a big guitar hero, and he goes by the name of Slash now. The guitarist from Guns N' Roses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Went to junior high school with him and high school with him. And actually, his brother is a friend of mine to this day.
Well, Marsha Brady was in my graduating class from Taft High School.
Really?
How about that?
Did you guys say Marsha?
No, she was never there. She was getting educated.
She was on set. She had a tutor.
But she was at the graduation, and she was in the yearbook and stuff. So.
Of course she was. You got to have some semblance of a normal childhood.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, this is a Ride Along radio show.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
I forgot there's other people here.
Yes.
We're not on the phone.
Right. Exactly, right. This is a Ride Along radio show, and I'm George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras.
And we're cops who talk about cop stuff, and we translate. We're almost like interpreters.
We're like cop whisperers.
There you go.
That's how I see it.
Or the civilian whisperers, because we have to get the civilians to see.
Well, we're cop whisperers, and the civilians. We're trying to speak their language, but really
civilianese.
They're kind of hard-headed.
Well, we try to speak civilianese. I'm pretty fluent in civilianese. I wasn't always. I've been working on it though.
Yeah, I'm not that fluent. So.
Before I move on, I want to give a shout out to my middle son Kyle. Kyle's 27th birthday is tomorrow. So, son, happy birthday.
27.
Yep. And,
that means you're.
I'm 50 plus.
50 plus.
50 plus and getting older, fortunately.
Not 50 Cent. You're 50 plus.
50 plus.
50 plus.
There's a difference, yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
So, happy birthday, son, and enjoy many, many more.
Is that the cop? Is that the sheriff?
No, he's my middle son. The deputy is the oldest one, George.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah, he had his birthday already.
He looked like a bad mofo, quiet as his cat.
You know what, man? He's just taking after his pops. That's all. You know.
Anyways, don't make me tell tales now.
So one of the things we do is we do social media feedback, and we had some social media feedback from Ride Along radio show legend Captain Haynes, and last week Chris Wimbush had left a comment on the show prior to that one where he said, hey, how come cops basically don't shoot people in the leg or shoot the wound? Because my father was a cop in D.C.
And he said
that he would shoot people to slow them down, and he was very proud of the fact that he never had to shoot anybody to kill him. And we basically cast a whole bunch of shade and doubt on that version of events. And we said, well, hey, not for nothing and no disrespect, but maybe Pop's exaggerating just a little bit. Just a little bit. Maybe he's putting a little, he's telling tall tales, just a little bit. And so Kevin.
Maybe that's just the way he remembers it.
That's how he remembers it, right? Like, what was that? Commander McBragg. You remember that? The Tennessee Tuxedo? He was the war hero who had all these great stories of his exploits. But no. So anyway. We talked about how that just wasn't how we trained, and it probably just wasn't. It's just likely that it didn't happen that way. So Captain Haynes' response is, maybe Chris Wimbush's dad was just a better cop than the two of you.
What?
I thought that was funny.
That's what we got. That's for you, Cabot.
Yeah, maybe she's a better cop.
It wouldn't have had nothing to do with being a better cop or a worse cop. It would have had to do with being better firearms, more proficient.
Yeah, but people tie that together,
Anyway, I do have to say, though, if I may, because as you mentioned Cabot Haynes, I'm into this new thing work-wise, and so I'm having to kind of take a lower profile on
social media,
on Facebook,
sure,
and that, and so The other day, I cleared a bunch of people off my Facebook. I had, because of the show, I got a lot of requests from people that I don't know from other parts of the country. And,
right, sure.
And I just they must be from Right Along, and I just
I've been doing the same thing.
I just did that, but now because of I really need to kind of pull back a little bit. I had to purge my friends list. I had over 300 and something, and I purged about 150 names.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you were purged and you're a Right Along radio listener, I apologize. It's not personal. It's just OPSEC. So
operational security. It's double secret ninja stuff.
It
was code word Agent Orange. It was Agent Orange.
G35.
That's right. G35 classified.
You don't hear me though. But so anyway, I'm sure. I know Kevin Haynes is one that got purged.
Didn't make the cut.
Sorry.
This is the one that christened you Gil O'Reilly.
I know. Isn't that something? You know what? I might put it.
Next, it'll be Willie Sweet Wonka Joe.
Well, he never sent me a request, thank God.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I don't want to be perusing his little page, see who he is, what he about.
And I'll tell him what's on there. I don't even know if he's on Facebook, honestly. I see him on YouTube. I don't know if he's on Facebook. So.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, so that's why if you got cut, don't take it personal.
Yeah, it's just business. It's not personal. And also that leads me to say that, I may be absent, for the next couple of shows until I kind of figure out how my schedule is going to look and, where and how I fit in. Right Along Radio, because I really do enjoy this, And
we enjoy having you.
And when we, thank you.
Fan favorite, Gil Contreras.
Pleasure being here. We just, thank you.
There you go. There you golf clap.
My fans in the audience there, thank you very much. Appreciate that. But, on the serious side, sometimes we get a little out there on some stuff. Especially, political stuff, especially since the election, for God's sakes. Prior to the election, it was kind of funny, but, after the election, it just got, whoa. Crazy.
Yeah, man.
It got way crazy.
Nobody expected that to happen.
But when we talk about the cop stuff and we break that down for people, I think they, even if they don't like it, at least they have a better appreciation of what they saw. And
that's really one of the main things we set out to achieve, is just to kind of give you another perspective, or informed perspective, of the things that you may see on the news or, on social media or wherever you get your information from. Because
I'll tell you, there's this video, and I think it's on the list for tonight, but the video of the guy getting shot with a pepper ball. Now, that video went viral.
That one's going to make this episode get listed under comedy, because that was hilarious. We'll get to it.
Right. But, as I watched all the news reports that showed that video, every newscaster or every journalist that talked about it misspoke about what had happened.
Oh, really?
They called it a tear gas canister. They called it a bean bag, and it was neither of those weapons.
Neither of those.
And we'll clear that up about what it actually was when we show it. But it was pretty funny. So I think that's the service that we do. I think people will look at a thing, they hear the activists and news people talk about it, and then they think, oh, well, I'm pretty informed about that.
Right.
And then they watch us, and as we kind of break it down in cop whisperer voice. They kind of say, oh, okay, well, that's not what I saw, but I understand that that's what a cop may see.
Right, but here's why, and this is why we saw this, and this is really why that happened, and this is what that actually was, not what the newscaster who doesn't know anything about this told you.
Right.
I mean, was it the other day, someone asked, because we were talking about chemical agents, and we were talking about OC, CSCN, et cetera, and somebody, I think it was Seymour, said, what does all that mean? I don't even know what that was, right? So we have to remember sometime to kind of translate that for people, and that's just a reminder to me, even on my social media, that everybody on my friends list isn't a cop, and they don't know. But people want to know, to their credit, so they'll ask a question, and we kind of break down to them. Because, everybody says it's tear gas.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I guess that's a generic term, but there's so many different varieties, so many different flavors of tear gas for you that we have to really kind of break it down.
And if you're old school, I just call it macing people. So
mace, exactly.
Even when I was teaching this, I was teaching Homeland Security.
Right.
I didn't do the chemical agent certification. We had a BSIS guy do that. But as I taught chemical agents, I found myself talking about macing a guy versus pepper spraying versus riot.
The generic term for that is just hot face.
Yeah.
Hot face the guy. He got out of hands. We had to hot face him. and everybody knows what that means, whether it's pepper spray or mace or whatever, right? I don't think anybody even uses mace anymore.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, interesting.
Yeah, buddy. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, back in the day.
You know, when the radios were like big bricks.
Yep, and you could actually bust somebody in the head with that radio if you needed to, you know, because it was an impact weapon with a big old big battery on it, right?
Yeah, and there was a time when we actually didn't have radios and we would just tap on the sidewalk with our nightsticks. So.
Oh, and everybody know you're good to go, right? The blue night.
Yeah.
Or what about this one? You do a traffic stop, and then guys would lay that the handset outside of the passenger window.
Microphone, right?
Right, the microphone out, so that you could get back to it without having to go all the way around or open the car door. It was just there for you to grab.
Yeah,
that was back in the day, man. That was, when I became an explorer, 83, I guess it was, 82, 83, we, there was no rovers happening at that point, at least not with the sheriff's department. Right. So it was a different kind of thing.
Yeah, and I have to say about last week's show, my mom watched the show.
Nice.
She watched it live, and she told me, because I had breakfast with her a couple days ago, and she told me, man, that girl that you had on, even though she talked a lot,
Jasmine.
She said,
shout out to Jasmine Cannon.
Yeah, she said she found it very interesting. She found the discussion very interesting to her.
Well, you know what? She's a great guest. She's very well informed, and she's passionate about what she does. And now I've been tracking this whole story, the Ed Buck story, and she's on that dude though. She is on that dude. Every tweet, all these posts, and now the LA Sentinel has picked up the story. Another local paper picked up the story too. And,
I know there was a news report because the mother of the guy who died.
Yeah, Jamel Moore.
Yeah, his mom apparently made an appearance at the West Hollywood City Council meeting.
Right. She was in front of the sheriff's station, and then she went to the city council.
Right. So
to ask for immunity for anybody who wanted to come forth to testify. Wow. Although that wasn't necessarily the venue to do it.
Right, but
still.
That's one way.
That's one way to get some attention.
The news cameras were there.
Yep.
So I saw the story. I didn't get a chance to go through it, but when I saw it, I go, oh, wow. I reposted it, actually, and wrote, we talked about this last week.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. I mean, that was that story's it'll be interesting to see how far it goes. Let's put it like that, And I still think I'm going to win that $1 from her, though, because I don't think Homeboy's going to get prosecuted for it. But it'll be interesting to see what unfolds out of it, though, in terms of when they start digging what the other revelations are. And when those other escorts come forth, if they're offered immunity, what they're going to start talking about and what they're going to give up, So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We talked about, I think it was last year, we had a show on the death penalty. And we talked about, we had a death penalty advocate, or actually not an advocate, an anti-death penalty advocate who used to be very pro-death penalty, an FBI agent, who came on because we were talking about the Kevin Cooper case specifically. And so with that in mind and exposure to that information kind of made me start questioning my long-held belief that the death penalty should be applied more widely and more vigorously, And it made me really question why we don't, with all the scientific advances we have now, why we don't take a more cautious approach to that. And I know people have like 8 appeals in the state of California, I think. Is it 8?
I don't know. I don't know what the number is. I just know it seems never ending.
Oh, there's a guy. I testified against a guy, killed 2 Compton police officers in 93, February 22nd, 1993. And I testified against him in the death penalty phase of that case. And that was over 20 years ago, and he's still alive. Okay? He killed 2 cops, and he's still alive.
That's crazy.
So I don't know where he is in his appeals and how long before he gets to meet old Sparky, but the fact that I testified against this dude in probably 94, it's 2017.
Yeah, and that's something.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's bananas, right?
I remember when I was a kid, we thought 1980 was the future.
Right, or 1984. That was a big
1984,
one.
That's right.
1984, right? That was a big one.
We thought that was the future.
Man, we thought we'd see flying cars by then,
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know. People are still driving around in, 88 Monte Carlos.
Right, and they're still intact. Yeah, exactly. So on the death penalty thing, we had a situation in Missouri where the Missouri governor halted a man's execution literally hours before he was supposed to catch that lethal injection, or however they kill you in Missouri. I don't know if it's a chair or lethal injection, or I don't think anybody does firing squad anymore, right? Utah used to do firing squad. Remember Gary Gilmore?
Yeah.
They did him with the firing squad. But we're gonna play a video on that, and we'll come back and discuss that. No, we're going to just go right into the video. The Missouri governor, the first video. I'm sorry, I was trying to drop hints.
New here at 4, Missouri Governor Greitens has issued a stay of execution for a man who was supposed to die tonight. KCTV5 investigative reporter Angie Riccono joins us now from our newsroom with the new details that were announced just hours ago. Angie?
That's right, Carolyn. The governor says death is the ultimate punishment, and there must be confidence in a person's guilt. He's staying the execution and ordering what's called a board of inquiry to look into the case. Marcellus Williams is convicted of stabbing a woman to death 43 times inside her home. However, his defense team says newer sophisticated DNA evidence shows his DNA is not on the weapon. It actually belongs to someone else. All of this evidence was submitted to the Missouri Supreme Court, which actually turned down a stay of execution. And that prompted outrage from Williams' defense team.
How innocent do you have to be to avoid being executed? It's just remarkable to me that the Attorney General and the other people defending this conviction can say with a straight face that DNA does not trump the evidence that they have submitted.
Williams' defense team is taking his case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, calling it the most compelling innocence case they've ever seen. Right now, the most important news is that this execution is on hold. Reporting from the newsroom, Angie Riccono, KCTV5 News.
He got a stay of execution the day he was supposed to die, cutting it close.
Man, you only see that in the movies.
Whew, that's nervous, man. He was, you know what I mean? Wow. Nervous time. Well, hey, you know what? At least, though, they're going to maybe give him a chance to, clear his name. But now, that doesn't mean he wasn't involved in the crime. He could have been after the fact or whatever. It just means that he wasn't the one who wielded that knife that actually was used as a murder weapon.
Right, and I think this is the case. I thought there were two eyewitnesses that put him at the crime scene. And that's what the prosecution was based on, the two eyewitnesses. And I'm going to just tell you that, when I used to teach investigations, I had these videos we used to show to the students about how the most unreliable witness you can have is an eyewitness.
Yeah, most unreliable evidence or testimony, yeah.
That's sure. Right, because as soon as a thing happens, the moment it happens, especially if it's violent,
right?
When it happens, the brain tries to protect the soul, the spirit of, and tries to. So people say, "I can't believe." When you talk to people, they say, yeah. "I can't believe that happened."
Right.
Or they'll say, "It looked like a movie to me."
Yep.
And
all the time.
And so. These eyewitnesses.
What did people say before they were movies, I wonder?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? What did they say before? What did people say back in the 1905 and, when they witnessed something?
When you're covering this as a news story, right, you're supposed to go to the crime scene. They want you to talk to anybody. Right. And so they always talk to the neighbor or neighbor across the street or something. Sure. And they put the microphone and what do you think about the homicide that happened just down the street from you? And people say, they always say, you know what? This is such a quiet neighborhood. We never thought something like that could happen. Oh, that just
happened. That just happened in Bloomington.
Right.
Did you see that?
That's why, every time I hear it, I cringe. Yeah. Because, these field reporters, because when I was at, 980 KFWB, give me 22 minutes and I'll give you the world.
I remember that tag.
They just say, just talk to anybody. It doesn't even matter what they say. But I thought we were news.
Right. Just get them to say something, fill up some airtime.
Yeah, because there's a formula to the 30-second story. There's an intro, an intro, and then there's the sound bite, mm-hmm. Then there's a witness, and then there's a tagline, and then you're out.
Wow.
And I've told the whole story in about 25 to 30 seconds. And this is why I didn't do very well in commercial radio, because I just hated it.
Yeah, because you're missing so much.
You couldn't tell. That's not news. News, like when I did public radio, when I had 4 minutes to delve into a story. Sure, that was news,
right?
Because I could interview all the different parties and then present it and let the listener decide what they thought it all meant. But one thing I learned in commercial terrestrial radio is that it's all about advertising. So it's just
of course.
That's why we're trying to give you the world in 22 minutes. I mean, who can do that?
Right. No, it's just for people with that short attention span, right? The average consumer. So, well, fortunately, they discounted, or I'm not going to say they discounted the eyewitness testimony. but they realized that the scientific evidence probably had more weight than the unreliable eyewitness testimony.
And I understand that the DA was against this, or the Attorney General or something. They were against.
Oh yeah, and a lower court was against it. The lower court didn't want to admit that DNA evidence.
I don't understand that.
Thank God the governor has a soul, and he said, "Hold on, let's at least examine this."
If you have DNA evidence, for God's sakes, that says, he wasn't at the crime scene,
right, or he doesn't have the knife in his hand, and if somebody said he was the one who stabbed him, and it turns out it wasn't him, then that casts the whole thing into doubt.
Yeah.
So hopefully, this dude didn't do this and will be able to be exonerated and go on about his life, But I just, as the governor said,
he might have used a glove like OJ.
Yeah, it didn't fit. But the governor said that death is the ultimate punishment. And here's the thing: let's take our time to figure out what happened, because homeboy ain't going nowhere.
Right.
He's sitting in a max facility lockup shoot program. He ain't go nowhere.
23-hour lockdown.
That's right. He'd be playing basketball at Pelican Bay. And he's not going anywhere, so he can sit there while we sort this out. You know what I mean? We got the rest of his life to kill him. So let him do his thing. We'll figure it out. And then when we're sure that we're not corrupting the system by executing an innocent man, then we bring him on out, strap him down, apply that needle.
Yeah, so if he didn't hold the knife, but he was there, we should just amputate an arm or something instead of killing him.
Yeah, there you go. No, if he was there and he saw, you got to pull his eyes out or something, right?
Well, let's not get crazy.
That's Sharia?
I don't know, but
to Sharia.
I'm just saying, if he's right-handed, we should take his right arm.
Oh wow, yeah, we have to. He start calling him lefty.
I guess that's going to be a different life.
A whole different life
in prison.
Yeah, especially
with one arm.
Yeah, he'd better keep it himself.
I don't know. It don't make no good sense to me.
Well, hopefully the dude will get a fair shake, because it doesn't sound like he got one. And this is why you have to have that ability for somebody to say, nah, hold off. Let's see what else is happening. Yeah. Because
the picture, though, I saw him in the picture that we showed there at the end. He looked like a criminal.
Oh, he's a criminal. No, I don't think there's any doubt. I have never seen them come grab somebody out of medical school and put them in prison for something like this.
Right.
It's criminal, but did he do this is the question. Not that he wasn't involved in fencing the property, not that he wasn't involved in something else, but did he do this? And oftentimes that's why you make that short suspect list, that person of interest list, because this is your MO. So it's not that I don't think that he was sitting in Sunday school and they went and slapped the Bible out of his hand and put him in handcuffs and dragged him out the church house and threw a jumpsuit on him. I don't think that at all. I think he's probably a criminal, but he didn't do this. And whatever he's done, he's been in there. Well, time served.
Maybe karma just caught up to him.
That too. It's for all stuff you didn't get caught for, right? Yeah.
Oh, so maybe they should kill him. Now that I think about it.
Listen, he's had a hard life, I'm sure, in there, But we just don't want the whole system to be corrupted. So again, and my view on the death penalty kind of got I've kind of altered my stance on the hard line that I used to have on it, because I cringe to think about how many people were executed who didn't deserve to be executed. And that was never, ever supposed to happen. And you see all these people who are exonerated now that we have this DNA evidence. And what you're thinking, before we had DNA, man.
You just had death.
Right. You know what I mean? People were getting rolled up.
Yep.
And that's final. There's nothing you can do about that.
Drop the tablet.
Drop that tablet, man, or fire that Sparky up.
Apparently it smells like pine oil.
That's what they say. Yeah. That's what he said.
According to Lonzo.
According to Lonzo Harris, it smells like pine oil. That's right. But when they were using the firing squad, I know we used to do it in California, and then Utah was doing it up to this. When did they kill Gary Gilmore? 81, 80, something like that?
I don't remember.
Late 70s, early 80s when they executed Gary Gilmore. And Gary Gilmore was unique because he asked for the death penalty. And he no, this is how I want to go, for whatever reason. I don't know what he was trying to do.
Right.
But he asked for the death penalty, and they were trying to not give it to him. And I think he said, it's my right.
That's right.
To receive the death penalty.
And I agree with him.
Listen, I did this. I want to stand up there, give me the blindfold, the cigarette, and the whole thing, and then go and take me out. But you know what they found years ago, that whole executioner thing, because a lot of people don't know this, the only person who can carry out that death sentence is a peace officer. I think the doctor has to mix the cocktail or whatever,
right.
But I think it's a peace officer has to push the button that administers the drugs or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Just like the peace officer has to be the one to drop that cyanide tablet, or in the case of a firing squad, has to be the one to pull the trigger. That's the right button. Is that appropriate? Wow. Wow. Save that for the pepper ball story. There you go, exactly. So what they were finding is that you had people who, for religious reasons or moral objections or whatever, didn't want to be a member of a firing squad. You know, all they had to do was make it overtime. There'd have been cops lining up around the block for it, believe me.
That's right.
But you have people who didn't want to be on the firing squad, or they just wanted to spare the person that knowing that they take a life, right? So what they said they would do was every gun wouldn't have a live round in it. Like if there was a firing squad of 6 people, only 3 of them would have live rounds, and the other 3 would have blanks, and nobody would know. They would like mix them up and give them the rifle.
Until you pull the trigger.
Well, that's the thing. I guess the load is supposed to be identical or something or whatever, so that you could walk out of there not ever really knowing if you're the one who fired the bullet through that person's heart. Because it's not like a self-defense situation. The dude is standing there in front of the bullet-marked wall, right, or wherever they execute him in. I think there's a bunch of sandbags in back of them is what they do. I think they put them in a chair.
Yeah,
there's a bunch of sandbags in back of them.
Can't get a ricochet.
Right. And so they're sitting there, and you come in there, and you're being asked, hey, go ahead and kill that dude. I know you never met him before, or maybe you have met him if you've been working at the death row module, right? Mm-hmm. I know he didn't do anything to you, and I know you didn't even see him do anything to anybody else, but here's a piece of paper. We're authorizing you to go in there and kill that dude.
And it's your duty.
And it's your duty, but a lot of people would have a problem with that, just going in there, picking up that gun, and shooting a person that they don't even know, who hasn't done anything to them, right? So in order to get them past that mental hurdle, they would mix the guns up, and some would have blanks, some would have live rounds, and everyone was directed to fire into the aim for the heart.
Right.
And that was supposed to give instantaneous death or the quickest and most humane way or whatever. But we don't use firing squad in California anymore. Hell, we don't kill anybody.
We don't kill nobody.
We don't kill anybody anyway.
Last guy we killed was Tookie.
That's right, huh?
They done took Tookie,
and he got the lethal injection. Yeah, he got the lethal injection. And you know, it was interesting on that. They said that Arnold was a governor then, right? Mm-hmm. And Arnold, the papers came across his desk, and he could sign it or not sign it, or he could do the stay of execution. Yeah. And they said actually he had met Tookie before because they were both bodybuilders. And Tookie at one time was working out, trying to be a professional bodybuilder, and they worked out, I guess, together at Gold's Gym. Apparently there's a picture of them together somewhere way back in the day. And they were like, that was one of the first times that's ever happened where the governor actually had previous contact with the person. Mm-hmm. Didn't matter. Or maybe he didn't spot Arnold properly because Arnold didn't care, and Arnold signed the death warrant and did not save Tookie from the chair, you know. But yeah, so that's our death penalty episode segment on death penalty. But yeah, you know, I really do hope that young man gets another shake. And if you did it, you got to go. Now, I'm not saying that. You got to go.
But I do want to add this about the death penalty in California, because I remember, I was teaching, and when Jerry Brown was the Attorney General, and he was wanting to run for governor, and he is governor now,
right?
But when he wanted to run for governor, one of the things he wanted to do is he wanted to go down to the next guy on the list, and do an execution.
Really?
Yeah, and they tried to do the execution, and the attorneys filed a lawsuit. And they didn't execute him because the 3 drug cocktail that they have to put together, apparently one of them had expired, and so the court said, well, we can't use the expired drug because you might actually harm him in the process of killing him. So if you're going to kill him, you have to be nice about it. You can't harm him in the process of killing him.
Right.
If you're going to kill him,
it's okay.
You have to kill him nicely.
And you can't harm him along the way.
That's how screwed up California is.
But that's all. You know what? There's a lot of these states that they sterilize the needle before they put it in a person's arm. Why? What difference does it make? By the time he could get sick off of anything, he wouldn't be even alive anymore. So what difference does it make?
Yeah, this is all we need right here.
See, but now you have to ask yourself, could you go in that room? There's some dude sitting there, and sometimes their families are there, by the way, or not their family, I think.
Well, not when you're shooting
Not
them.
their family. But they still, I think people can still witness it. I think the victim's family gets to see it or something.
You think even when you're doing a fire squad?
I think so. I'm not sure about that 100%. I have to look into that. But could you go in a room? There's some dude sitting there, and you come in and pick up a rifle and just kill him because they say go in there and kill that.
It's your job.
I didn't say that.
If you showed up to work
and
could
you do that?
And say, hey, Gil, you're on PM shift tonight, so thank God because we got this guy George Holtz on days. Thank goodness, and he don't shoot nobody. But
I shot people who was messing with me. I ain't just walking up and shot nobody for no reason.
Look, the reason is there's a court order and he committed a crime that was so egregious that the state felt that death was what was appropriate for him being involved in that crime. If that's your job, that's your job. You do your job. For
but
God's
what do you?
sakes.
But you know that night you coming in to kill this dude, unless there's a stay of execution. So like, how do you get ready for that? Do you listen to certain kind of music on your way in, or you know what I mean? Maybe they had to show me crime scene photos or something to kind of get me like, feeling like I don't know, man. I don't know that I could just come in and do that and not feel anything about it.
I don't think rock and roll music. I think
well, it's any kind of music. It might be if you're ice cold, you might want classical music.
But I think being contemplative prior to and getting in touch with your own spirituality in that moment, and you got to have that conversation. If you believe in God, I don't know. In the new America, half the country wants to be goddamn communist, and they don't even believe in God anymore. But I still do. I was raised a Catholic, and I believe in God, and so I think that's something that you take to the altar, and you make your peace with your God, and you do your duty. That's what I think.
Okay, and here's the thing about that. So then it comes out you're getting ready to retire, or you retired 10 years later. And they come out with some DNA evidence. Say, remember that guy that we killed 10 years ago? Man, he didn't even do it, though.
I say, nope, I don't even remember what I had for lunch yesterday.
So, I just don't know. I'm not even going to lie, man. I'm not going to act like I'm some steely-eyed killer, I don't know that I could do that without feeling some kind of way about it later.
Yeah. I don't know either. And, the truth is, I came very close to killing a guy with a shotgun who had a baseball bat, and you know the story. Yeah. And, when in the time that I was on the streets, that was the closest I'd ever come to killing somebody. And I remember when I was looking at him over my shotgun, over my barrel, and he wasn't very far away from me. I remember I actually had this thought. I said, wow, this is my guy. This is the guy that I kill in the line of duty. He's standing right here, right in front of me, right here, right now.
Right.
I had that thought.
Right. Sure. Now it goes through your mind, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so it all switched, and I didn't have to shoot the guy. I could have,
right,
but I opted not to because there was a thing I was waiting for a movement to happen, and it never occurred. And then his face went soft. He dropped the bat, and he looked at me.
He woke up.
He looked confused, and then we snapped out of I was in a trance. I mean, I could hear people yelling. They sounded far away,
right.
But as soon as all that snapped back into real time, I realized they were standing right behind me. There was like 300 people yelling, "They're gonna kill you, Red! They're gonna kill you!" Mm-hmm. But so later on, when Sarge came over, because the guy just walked to Sarge's car, put his hand on the car, and he hooked him up, put in the back seat, and I was that.
Right,
I was like,
that. Yeah, he did that switch flip.
Yeah,
and I know the guy you're talking about too.
Yeah. So later on, when Sarge came back and told me, "Hey, that dude you almost killed today?" I go, "Sarge, I swear to God, man, I came close."
Right.
I was about to smoke that dude, and I knew it, and I wasn't afraid. I had a good background.
Sure,
all the things you learn in training, it actually occurred to me. Check your background. Oh, that's a good one back there. Ain't nothing back there. I had that boy, and I was going to dump him, and to find out he was a Vietnam vet.
Oh yeah.
With a plate in his head.
Yep, disability.
And had been off his medication for a month because he couldn't afford to buy them anymore.
Yeah.
And the call I got was 415 gang fight with baseball bats on 105th and Compton. That was my call.
Uh-huh.
What I saw when I got there was this big dude in a white T-shirt, big bald-headed black guy with a white T-shirt swinging a baseball bat, and people running all in circles. It just looked chaotic. And we drove right at him with the car, and he backed up, and that's where he made a stand. But as it turns out, he was chasing the gang members who were standing in front of his grandmother's unit selling crack.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing with that baseball bat. And I came that close to ending that guy.
And all that would have come out later.
And when Sarge told me that, when he told me he was a vet and all the whole story, I swear to God, I leaned back on my car and I just went, whoa. I was so glad
that you didn't kill him. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. All right.
But I would have done it.
Yeah. Oh, no. You know what? Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, I'm glad you didn't, too. And I know he's glad, too. I mean, I don't know if the dude's even still around, man. It's been years since I haven't seen him in almost 20 years, probably, Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and jump into some other stuff for you, and we'll see you shortly. All right. That was Like a Stone by Audio Slave.
So if
the late, great Chris Cornell.
If I may say, the answer to your last question that you posed to me.
Could you do it?
was actually answered by a ride-along radio favorite from Colorado, Ed in Colorado.
Ed from Colorado.
And he says, yes, I could, not a problem. Looks like George is getting soft in his old age.
Well,
thanks for that, Ed in Colorado.
Ed in Colorado. Well, you know what? And like I said, I'm just being real. You know,
for reals, though.
You know,
For
dude
reals,
sitting
though.
there minding his business.
For sure.
You know, I don't know, man. I'm not saying I would not do it. I'm just saying I think I would have some issues that needed to be worked out later. So, you know, I don't know. That's just me, though. That's just me. At one time, I'm going to tell you, back when we were all in the streets together, at one time, I probably was in a frame of mind and a mindset that I could have walked in, done it, put the rifle down, and went and had lunch. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I would have thought about it later on, but I wouldn't have felt, you know.
I'm going to tell you, you know, and I think this is a thing that people don't understand, and maybe civilians don't or will never understand about law enforcement guys and gals, but, or maybe it was just me, I don't know. But I remember, you know, I think it was Dave Arona and I, and we had units in the big project in East LA. I don't want to say the name or whatever.
Okay.
But officers were involved in a running gun battle. It was, you know, shots fired.
Right.
He's running through the building. We got there, and you know, we could hear the gunshots. We could hear people screaming, and then we could hear the guy on the radio trying to call it out and breathing heavy and yelling and shooting. And so, you know, me and my party, we get out of the car, we get down, and then pretty soon here comes the air.
Right.
You know, and we're under those ugly yellow lights, you know, and the helicopter's trying to follow the running gun battle, and the sound's bouncing off all the buildings, so we can't really tell where they are. So I remember taking a knee right by a building and waiting. And I'm taking a knee. I've got my Beretta in my hand, and in all the chaos, all the noise, the airship, the radio, the gunshots, I actually started to smile.
Mm-hmm. I've had that moment before.
I started to smile, and I remember thinking, "There's no place I would rather be anywhere in the world than right here, right now."
Yep. No, I had that moment in a house where they were manufacturing and selling PCP. And we went in the house, and I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, like in full SWAT gear, gas mask, shotgun, everything, right? And as I go past, I kick the door, go in the bathroom, and as I turn to clear, I see myself in the bathroom mirror, and all I could think was, "You goddamn right, you goddamn right,
goddamn right,
goddamn right," because that's what I signed up for. You know what I mean? So I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, man, that's what you sign up for. That's what you want to do. And you know, that speaks to the psychology of police officers, I think. And where our mindset is, and the kind of people who are drawn to this work, and the sort of attributes that you develop after you've been doing this job for a while, you know what I mean? Which leads us to our next story. So there's a process by which police officers can transfer to another police agency. That process is called the lateral process. You do a lateral transfer from one department to another. I did that. When my first agency closed down, I lateraled over to my second agency. And typically the process is shortened because they don't treat you like you just came off the street.
Right.
They will do things like speed up the process for you because your background's easier to do because they don't have to go all the way back. They can just pick up from where your last background left off, et cetera, et cetera. There's certain things they can do to make the process shorter for you. So in New York, now there's only 2 agencies in the city of New York. There used to be 1 million agencies in the city of New York, but New York PD absorbed all those agencies except for one, which is the New York, New Jersey Port Authority. And they couldn't absorb them into NYPD because they belong to the state. The Port Authority is like a bi-state or dual status kind of a thing where they have authority in 2 states, the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey. And they have a police department too. And in fact, they lost a lot of people in 9/11,
right?
Because that tower fell on a Port Authority building, wasn't it?
Right, and the Port Authority provided police service to the
towers. Okay, so yeah, that's why they were there on scene also.
Right.
So them along with NYPD lost a lot of people. They're not as big as NYPD, but I think percentage-wise they lost, if not as many, maybe more.
Yeah, I think they did lose more than the
NYPD. Yeah, they lost a lot of officers. I think it was almost 50 officers, something like that. They lost, and for an agency their size, that's a lot. So anyway, apparently it's a pretty good job because you have officers wanting to lateral from the New York Police Department to the Port Authority Police Department, and they are hitting a roadblock, a lot of them, and it's some ridiculous number that get washed out in the psychological process. And they're saying that like 20,000 people a year apply for that job, right. And out of that 20,000, they say that like after the written test, there's only 13,000 left, and out of that 13,000, 9,100 of them get cut in the psychological phase, right? Mm-hmm. I think those numbers are correct.
It was 90-something, correct? It was
9,000 like over 9,000.
Right.
And so and a lot of those candidates are New York City police officers. They don't pass the psychological exam.
Or other officers.
Or officers from other police departments.
Right.
Yeah, New Jersey even. Like New Jersey officers want to come to the Port Authority Police. And so that's raising some questions. Number one, no other agency has such a high washout rate for the psychological portion of their selection process. Because, people think it's like working at Carl's Jr. You fill out an application and then you go to the academy.
Right.
It's very competitive to become a police officer. And typically, I think it's like 5 out of every 100 people, if that, who apply for the job actually get the job, and maybe even lower than that, actually.
Yeah, the article says that over 70% of the men and women looking to join the Port Authority Police Department and who have passed a written exam are failing the psychological exam.
Yeah, and that's a huge washout rate.
70%.
It's like 3 times what the national average is, they said, right? So they're saying that's an issue. And why is the Port Authority's test so difficult? And if current police officers can't pass that psych, what's the reason for that?
And are they crazy, for God's sake?
Right. Is it that the job, because they pass NYPD psych, right? Or if they couldn't have got hired, or the other agency's psych, they passed that psych. So why is it that when they took this, and we're saying psych, it's short for the psychological, which is a written exam, which is a very, very lengthy, it's like 600 questions or something like that.
Yeah.
And really it's probably 200 questions, but they're asked you 3 different ways as you go through it. So it's like 600 questions.
And it's annoying to take.
It's annoying.
It's so annoying
oh my God. It's called the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. But just Google MMPI and you'll see it, right? And then you have to sit down and be interviewed by a psychologist.
Right.
The psychologists that I interviewed with, and I remember 2 of them specifically, I thought they were crazy as all outdoors. Seriously, I thought they were crazy as all outdoors, and they were so peculiar acting. I thought it was an act to see how I would react to them being crazy.
Yeah,
seriously. Yeah. So these are the people that now sit down and go over your results. Okay, and that's a phase of selection process, and they put it way at the end. And there's people who pass everything else. They go through the written, the oral, and everything else.
Yeah, it's not all the way at the end because it's usually after the medical because they do need you to, they need you to take it, but they're hoping you'll just pass it. You're not a nut. We hope you're not a nut.
Because typically people pass it.
Right. So, but I don't know, I don't know what the validity of those are, the MMP is. I just don't know. I don't have a whole lot of faith in it.
I don't either.
To tell you the truth. And in California, there was the MMPI, then there was the California.
Yeah, the CPI, right? Yep.
And it was the same kind of version of that, but I guess it was California focused. I don't remember.
It was shorter, though.
Yeah,
I think it was shorter.
It was shorter.
It was like 400 questions instead of 600. That makes you feel better. Yeah. How about you have to take both? I've done that before.
Yeah.
I had to take both.
Yeah.
So you're like literally taking a Scantron and you're answering 1,000 multiple choice questions. Okay, and they tell you be prepared to be there for hours.
So I think if you're a brand new applicant, I think that's fine. It may tell them something about a police applicant. But you take a guy who's already been on the streets and has 5, 8, 10, 13 years on the job, 15, you take a guy like that, their perspective is way different than it was when they applied for the job.
Sure.
They've seen things, they've done things, they know things are true now that they didn't know were true back then.
Exactly.
And so if they're using, and I don't know that they are using, but it sounds like it, they're using the same psychological test that they would give to new applicants.
Right.
They're giving them to these seasoned officers in the process of trying to lateral, and you're losing 70% of them.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's crazy. that's a crazy number, and I can't believe that. I just find it hard to believe that 70% of the cops who applied are just like psychologically unfit for
their job. Yeah, and that's the thing. And here's the other problem, and this is in the article. It raises an ethical concern. If these people are psychologically unfit to be cops, like example, if I go to apply to Port of New Jersey, Port New York, New Jersey Port Authority Police, and they find out because they give me a polygraph, or they find out that I've been stealing while at my current police job, they have an obligation to contact my current employer and say, hey, this dude's stealing, or he failed his drug test, or whatever, okay? And they make you sign a waiver when you go through the selection process.
Or he failed his polygraph.
Or he failed his polygraph, and there's some things that we think you should be concerned about and you need to know. Well, I would think that if you're saying that I'm unfit to have this police job, that you might want to alert my police department to tell them, hey, maybe you have this dude psyched or something because we picked up on some things that we didn't think were right, or that he was unsuitable for this job. Mm-hmm. But they're not doing that. And it makes me think they're using that psych as a tool to blow people out for whatever reason, to kind of narrow the candidate pool down or something, so they don't have so many people to wade through. Right. 20,000 people apply for that job every year.
Yeah.
So it's inappropriate. And here's the thing that makes me think it's all BS anyway. If you fail a psychological test, you can appeal it. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's one of the only things you can appeal, really. If you fail the written test, you just got to wait and take it again.
Right.
But with the psych, you can go and get your own approved psych. And I think you pay, back in the day, it was $300. It's probably $500 now.
Right.
And you pay another police psychologist to evaluate you. And as long as their findings are accepted by that department, then you can use it and challenge it. Mm-hmm. Here's where the mumbo jumbo comes in. The razzle dazzle, as I like to call it. Whenever you appeal it, that second psych wants to see what the first psych wrote about you. They want you to bring a copy of that report, or they'll request a copy of that report. Now, my thing is this. If I went to a doctor to get a second opinion on a medical diagnosis, that doctor's not going to even care what the first doctor told me. They're just going to run their own set of tests, right? There's a test for high cholesterol. There's a test for diabetes. There's a test for whatever, right? Cancer. Right. They're going to run their own tests. They're not going to say, well, what did the first doctor say? Let me see those tests. What you got to cheat on his test for? What are you going to cheat off his test for? Run your own test. Psychologists don't do that. Because to me, if you're giving me a true second opinion, you should be operating in a vacuum. You should be using your set of data and your process to see what the result is. Completely uninfluenced by what somebody else's results were. Right. But they don't do that. And that's what makes me think it's all the fix is in or something, man. It's been called a pseudoscience anyway.
Right. And I don't know if you ever had to do the Rorschach ink blot test.
I don't recall. I've in psychology, take psychology in college. I know I've seen it before. I don't know if I had to take it for a police job, though. I don't recall.
Yeah, I remember taking that, actually. And, I was supposed to, when my job came along, I was testing at a couple departments.
Sure.
And, I was so close to Santa Barbara PD, and then the other job called.
Right.
And I just took it,
Sure.
And, like a dumbass. And, but that Rorschach ink blot test, these blots that are, and whatever you see in each of the cards, and there's only like 10 of them, but whatever you see in each of these cards is supposed to say something about you.
Right. It's supposed to be subjective. It's supposed to be a subjective interpretation of this ink blot. It could look like a butterfly to you, but a gun to him.
And
that says something about you.
Tell me what you see, Gil. Gil's, I don't see shit. Quite frankly. I don't know. I don't see anything.
Right.
And you can't say that. You
got to give them an answer.
You have to say. So, all this stuff is just like, oh, my God. I think that, where cops are having the other hard time is in polygraphs. Now, after I took my post-research at Rio Hondo in 2008, I had applied for a chief's job in Washington State. Uh-huh. And it was a little, a chief, 2 police officers, and 2 reserve officers, and a dispatcher.
Right.
It was in the small. It was so cool. I really wanted that, and but I didn't get it. But one of the guys who got selected, and they had like 2. There was 5 of us, and then 3 moved on. And then, but one of the 3 in his polygraph came up that he had molested a child.
What?
Yeah.
Did they tell his age? Was he a current cop?
Well, yeah, he got fired.
Yeah.
He got fired and let his other agency know, and that was the end of his police career. But
wow.
So I see the need to do some. I think the background in the polygraph for a lateral is probably enough. I don't know why you'd want to test a written. You probably do want to do an oral interview just to see.
Oh yeah, there's certain things per post
about.
You have to do. Per state guidelines in California, you have to for somebody laterals at minimum, you have to do a psych, you have to do a criminal history, driving, and I think an oral interview. I think the oral interview, but I know that those, your driving history, your criminal history, and the psych are the only things that are actually mandated in maybe an interview. They don't have to do a written. They don't have to do a poly. It's a truncated thing. It's the post minimum. Now most agency for liability purposes is going to go beyond that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do cut it down.
Because I hear tell of an officer who was coming back to law enforcement after a break. Mm-hmm. And, the agency wanted him, and so he was coming back. And he didn't pass the psych. So they sent him to a different psych with the understanding that the agency wanted the guy. And
oh, yeah, sure, of course.
He passed that psych.
Well, of course. And that's okay, and that's the other thing. That's why I say it's mumbo-jumbo, because if they don't want you, it's as simple as them calling that psych, and I'm saying, hey, I'm sending Joey a bag of donuts over there to interview with him, but he's not going to pass. Okay, I'm sending him to interview. I'm sending him over here to be interviewed by you, but you're not going to pass him. With the understanding that if you want to keep getting our business, you're going to deal with these candidates the way we tell you to deal with them. And psychology is so subjective that it's easy for them to get away with that. So it's hard to challenge.
That's a story that I hear tell.
Oh, I believe it.
I don't know that it's true.
Sure, no, I believe it 100%.
I could never.
I don't doubt it at all.
I can't confirm or deny. I'm just telling you what I heard.
Yeah, I don't doubt it at all. So that's kind of the deal there is that, they're saying they're failing these psych tests and they're pushing the issue to find out what's going on with that. And, so there is the deal there.
Our friend Ed in Colorado also kind of cleared up for us. There was 37, talking about the officers who were killed in 9/11 in New York. So it's 37 officers from the Port Authority, 23 officers from NYPD, 343 firefighters, 8 EMTs, and 1 patrolman from the New York Fire Patrol.
Well, that's who died that day.
That day, correct.
Yeah, because there's been a bunch of people who've died due to 9/11-related illnesses since then.
But that was on that day. So that's the numbers. 37 officers from the Port Authority.
Well, thank you, Ed from Colorado.
23 from NYPD. But, man, 343 firefighters. That's awful, man. Yeah.
That's awful.
That's too much.
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely too much. Absolutely too much. So, listen, can we, producer? Can we go ahead to that Merced police video? There's and this was floating around, and we've been I've been wanting to get to this for the last couple of shows because we put it up on the Right Along Radio page, and people had a whole lot to say about the officer, which I think was out of line. I don't think that officer did anything wrong, and in fact, I credit the officer for her approach. But let's watch it, and then we'll kick it around afterwards.
I am about to leave, bro. This don't
give
make
me
no
your
sense.
ID so that I can cite you.
I am not going to give you my ID because I did not do nothing wrong.
Officer.
Adam 11 from...
So you can go ahead and...
Are you in a
I got it.
Are you in a
Don't touch me.
I got it, bro.
Give me
Don't
your
touch
ID
me.
now.
What do you
I got
think
it.
this is?
You need to give me your
I got
You
it.
better get off me.
Hey,
Chill out. Chill out.
Give me your
Why is
ID
you touching
now.
me?
Hey, I got it. Hey, I got it on film, bro. It's all
Yeah, you
good.
got it on
It's all
film, so
good.
you
It's
better
all
not
good.
touch me. I didn't
It's all
touch you,
good.
so
Give
don't
me
touch
your
me.
ID now.
It's all good.
Yes, you
No,
are.
I'm not giving you nothing.
Give me
Bruh.
your ID.
Hey,
Get off me.
Give
What
me
is
your
you
ID
doing?
now.
What is you doing?
Put your hands behind
What
your
is you
back.
doing?
Put your hands behind your back.
Bruh.
Put your hands behind your back. Now.
You hear her talking to you?
hey,
Do you hear her
hey.
talking?
All right, hey, no, hey, chill,
I'm
chill,
not
chill.
doing nothing to you, bruh.
All right, it's all
This is
good.
what they do to black people, bruh. You see what they do?
This is Merced.
Come on, nigga. I'm not
Merced
doing nothing.
police.
Turn around.
Merced police. Merced police.
Riding his bike.
Bro, I gotta get up out of here, bro.
Riding the bike.
Get up off me, nigga. Would you stop? Get up off me, though. Why are you doing this? What did I do to you? Come Come on now, I'm a typical black person. Going home, this is what we see on Facebook.
I don't want to argue with you, but you know what happened?
Yeah, I know exactly. I mean, he was refusing to abide to the officer's request.
Officer's request for what?
For his ID. That's it. If he would have given an ID, there would have been no big problem.
Hey, then get off me then.
Sit down.
Okay, can you get off me?
Sit
Bro,
down.
why is you squeezing my fucking cuffs?
Sit down.
God, bruh.
Sit down.
Oh, why is you kicking me, nigga? Stop fucking kicking me, bruh.
How many
You
times
got
did I
me
ask
fucked
you to
up.
sit down?
I don't care,
sit down.
nigga. You squeezing my cuffs and you fucking squeezing them too fucking hard, bruh. You got me fucked up, dude.
Sit
I swear to God, bruh.
You sitting down? Officer
Come
J.
on, bruh.
Gonzalez,
Stop.
Merced
Bruh,
Police.
Get the fuck off me.
Officer
I'm
J.
not-
Get the
Gonzalez,
fuck off me.
Merced
spitting in my
Get the
Department.
fuck off me, nigga.
Back up.
Take me
Yes,
to
sir.
jail.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wait a minute.
Wow, I really appreciate these headphones tonight. That was like being there, man. Wow. Every time I watch that video, I get pissed off. I want to choke his little
I
ass
know.
out.
It
Little
just-
bastard.
Makes me crazy to see that.
Okay, let me start off by saying that some of the comments
Man.
made about the officer, she's 12 years old. She doesn't have any command presence, and
Which
she's
true.
incompetent, and all this other stuff. Listen, I give her credit for being willing to make that stop by herself, for being willing to jump in.
That's her job.
Okay, but listen what I'm saying. A lot of times, people will call for another unit to come and deal with the situation, to help them deal with the situation, to be on standby. She had nobody there with her at all when she went to make the stop. Obviously, he's larger than her. Obviously, he's he displayed that he wasn't going to cooperate early on.
Should've taken
Way
that.
before she. That's what I'm getting there. Way before she went hands on with him, she could tell he was uncooperative. Mm-hmm. Yet and still, she just say, "Hey, I'm putting my hands on you. This is what's happening, and if you don't do it, I'm gonna put my hands on you, take you to jail, whatever." She did not hesitate to do that. So I don't get all the criticism toward her. She could have used that taser real early on. Way early on, she could have used that taser. This dude is snatching away. First of all, he's completely wrong. You're riding a bike on the sidewalk against the municipal code. She got every right to stop you, demand your ID.
But she had a radio call about him, right?
I don't know if she had a radio call about him or not.
I don't think it was just about she saw him riding on the street and now she wants to talk to him. It wasn't that.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, she said she was stopping him because he was riding. I'm under the impression that it's because he was riding on the sidewalk, and she had her Psych book in her hand already.
Right.
So she went to make contact with this dude. He's telling her he's not going to do it. I'm not giving you nothing. I don't have to give you nothing. Completely wrong, by the way. Wrong. You're completely wrong. And all this video does is provide evidence of the charges against him in terms of resisting, refusing to ID himself, all the things you're supposed to do when you get stopped by the police. She could have tased that dude so early on, and it would have been completely justified, and the video wouldn't have made me so upset. It would have been entertaining to watch, like the video we're going to show later.
Right.
But, I will say this. I think that when he saw the motor officer approaching, you saw him turn around, put his hands behind his back, and then that's when she moved in to handcuff him more easily. And then I think he got the hooks. She got the hooks on him, and then the motor officer came and grabbed him. Mm-hmm. I understand the motor officer's probably watching all this as he's approaching, and he's getting pissed off. But I think that once the dude's in handcuffs,
Well,
I don't think you need to jump in like
I don't
that.
know. We may have to run it again, but I don't think he was totally handcuffed when the officer got there. Once the officer got there and took control of him, and it looked like to me he C-clamped him, that's what got the suspect's attention, and that's when she was able to handcuff.
We'll look at it again later.
I don't think he was handcuffed.
I thought she put the hooks on it because his body kind of relaxed.
It didn't.
And he seemed resigned to it. But I think it's only because he saw off camera the motor officer pull up, put that kickstand down, and start running over there. And I think he saw that, and he goes, "Shh, all right, wait, it's not some little girl here I can talk any kind of way to now." Because clearly...
Well, he was still talking shit. What are you talking about?
Well, he was talking shit, but he wasn't doing all this, get off me, get off me.
Well, he was
Don't touch
handcuffed.
me shit.
He was
That's
handcuffed.
my point. He allowed himself now to be handcuffed because he wasn't allowing himself to be handcuffed before.
I think
he allowed himself to be handcuffed now
the motor officer,
because now the ass whooping is coming.
The motor officer put him in check, and that's when they got him handcuffed.
No, I think he was handcuffed prior to, and that's when the officer grabbed him.
Run the video.
We can watch it again later. I'll tell you what.
Sakes.
We'll come back on the YouTube comments later. You guys who are watching, let us know who was right on that.
Run it again.
We'll run back to that. Well, we got to take a break now. But I will say this. I hope this happened a couple of years ago.
Right.
But hey, there's women in law enforcement now, and if you got a problem taking orders from a woman, then don't do shit in front of women cops because they're going to detain you or contact you or whatever.
Or if you're a female cop, you better start taking jiu-jitsu or Krav Maga or something for when you get a little guy like that who's not going to cooperate and you're not going to go to your taser or some other thing on your belt and you want to go hands-on, you better at least know what to do.
And be able to, maybe be a little more, if you're going to go hands-on, you got to fully commit. Or just step back and hit him with that Edison medicine.
Right.
Because that, honestly, that's probably what I would have done. I just would have juiced his ass.
Yeah, I mean, there was no reason to put up with any of that.
Yeah,
before the motor officer ever got there.
Yeah, he was out of control.
And I submit to you that if the motor officer had made the initial stop,
it wouldn't have happened.
It would never happen.
No, it wouldn't happen.
He would have been mouthy, and he would have said,
maybe, but he would have been doing all that jerking away and get your hands off me. You better not touch me.
That's right.
Or bucking up and all that.
Because if he had done that motor officer would have taken him down and put him out.
Yeah, exactly. And that just would have been the end of the story.
That's right.
So. Anyway, that's our thoughts on it.
And the female officer would have just ran up and then stood there like this.
Put her arms dangling?
Yeah.
Well, she was ready.
That's what we do when we get there. He's already in custody.
Oh, well, no,
we didn't get to do
what we're going to do now?
Yeah. We just stand there like this.
I would have done something if I got here earlier. So, listen, you can leave your comments, your feedback on this video if you have not already on our page.
You better run it again, though.
On the YouTube video.
Don't be just sticking up for George.
And you know what? Maybe on the break. Is there a way we can watch it again on the break? Is that possible? Okay. Exactamente. All right, that's what we'll do. On the break, we're going to watch it on our phone. And
he needs a bigger screen
with the tiebreaker. All right, we'll see you guys in a minute. All right, and that was Points of Authority 99 Problems by Linkin Park and Jay-Z. And actually, 99 Problems is actually a reboot of the old Ice-T classic 99 Problems. A lot of people don't know that. But anyway, so we watched the video. Huh? Ice-T did it first, though. No, Ice-T did it first, and then Jay-Z redid it, and then Jay-Z and Linkin Park mashed it up together. But Ice-T did the original 99 Problems. All right, so...
those are cool names, aren't they?
Yeah, Jay-Z, Ice-T, Linkin Park. So we ran it back, and Gil was correct. He was not fully in custody. She had his arms behind his back and was going to it looked like she was about to apply the handcuffs, and then the motor officer ran up and grabbed him.
And took care of business.
And and gaffled him up fully.
That's right.
But he wasn't even thinking about cooperating before that motor officer pulled up on the scene.
And even when the motor officer put his hands on him, he was still wanting to get away. But by then she had him hooked.
Right. And then it was safe for him to act bad with the motor officer, because now I'm handcuffed. Now I can talk a whole bunch of crap.
Well,
I got the camera going.
He'd already been doing it anyway.
Yeah, but to that officer, he figured she wasn't going to do nothing.
And she didn't.
She did try. She wasn't punking out.
She didn't try.
I know. Are you kidding me? You didn't see when she tried to take him down? Sure, she was going in for the takedown on him. It didn't work.
She didn't go in.
It didn't work, but she tried.
She didn't go all in.
Well,
I saw when she shot in.
You saw when she shot in.
She shot in, but he
got reach on her.
She half shot in.
He had arm distance. He had length on her. He had reach on her. He kept her back off of her.
Right.
She tried, though. Hey, we both know a lot of officers, male and female, who would have just not even dealt with that situation like that at all. So I give her credit for not being a punk and actually going in and trying to deal with it. Now, it's outside of her physical capabilities to overpower that man.
I do want to say one thing, and it made me laugh when I heard it. And it reminded me, remember I was telling the story about looking over the shotgun and the dude with the baseball bat? Well, what I didn't tell you was that as I was looking at this guy, second unit rolled up on my right-hand side, and driving it was a female officer. And she jumps out of the car and pulls a gun, and all I hear is, I'm looking, and I'm having all these thoughts I talked about earlier, right? I'm having this, is this my guy right here, right now, blah, blah, blah. Oh, good background. And all of a sudden I hear, drop the bat.
Well, she's trying to make sure nobody got to kill him. She got to give that command. Did you tell him to drop the bat?
I didn't say shit.
Exactly.
I didn't have to.
But I'm just saying,
my partner was yelling. I had the shotgun. I racked it in. I wasn't talking. I was contemplating taking this boy's life.
Right.
And to hear the car roll up, I knew it was a police car. I heard the doors open, and then when I heard that little voice, drop the bat. I actually remember thinking, man, that sounds funny to me.
Wow.
I really did.
You really were steely-eyed.
Oh, man.
Wow.
And then later on, we messed with her about that.
Oh, about dropping.
Drop the bat.
Well, you know.
Look, there's just no command presence in that. That guy never heard it. Nobody heard it. I heard it because she was right next to me. But
it made her feel better.
It wouldn't have made a difference.
It made her feel better.
And that's how that girl sounded to me up there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, again, I say
this.
She passed all the tests to become a police officer. There's plenty of guys who didn't pass the same test that she passed. And yeah, she's probably 5'1" or something like that, right? And she
5'1". She probably tons of fun.
Probably weighs
5'1", tons of fun.
Probably weighs 110 pounds with her gear on.
About $125.
But
She looked
she's out. Hey, but you know what?
25.
Here's my thing, man. She's cashing the same check I'm cashing. So you got to get in there and handle the same business I'd have to handle.
She didn't.
You know,
the motor officer did. She didn't.
She. You know what? She made contact.
All she did was stall the guy till the police got there.
Oh wow,
that's what she did. I'm just saying. That's what I saw.
Wow, you didn't see her go and try to grab that man's wrist. You didn't see her try to. First of all, she made the initial stop. She made the initial contact. She made the initial physical contact when he did not comply. She went through all.
Everybody knows you don't make contact with somebody holding your goddamn ticket.
Well, that's true. Now, I did take exception to that. She did make a mistake there, and if he'd wanted to hurt her at that point, it would have been much easier for him to do so.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, please leave your comments, or if you want to call in 323-293-3375.
She needs to take aggressive 101 at community college or something. God's sakes.
Okay, listen. We had
people. Can you believe a kid like that talking to you like that?
Oh my God, that's what I'm saying. That just made my blood boil. A little bastard.
Wow.
I'm not. No, you not. What?
Tell me the law that says it. Boy, that'd have been the last thing he said.
Oh my God. Yeah, he would have known better though.
And he would have been like that dude at First and Boyle that got tased. You know, gang member with no shirt, and he's all tatted up.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to, 7 cops standing around. Well, what you gonna do with him? What you gonna do? And pop.
Nah, that's what we're gonna do.
The two things you do. As soon as they juice him, you hear the taser make the noise, and then he went like this.
Right, that's the plywood effect.
He went like this, and he said, "Oh Lord, you know what's happening."
Oh, that's the plywood effect.
And he fell like a tree,
like a piece of timber. That's why they call it the plywood effect. Because people go rigid, like a piece of plywood. You could put them between two chairs and walk over them.
He said, "I ain't
like a plank."
And then you can't do what you gonna do.
That's how we got planking. That's the original. That was the original planking challenge, right? Was the taser?
That's what should have happened to that kid.
No, definitely. So listen. We had
it's exhausting just watching that.
I'm telling you, it pisses me off every time I see it, but I wanted to show it because we had some comments on our page.
All right.
So
let's move on.
In Phoenix, Arizona, our neighboring state, one of our neighboring states to the east, we
know somebody with a compound out there.
Yeah, exactly. We sure do. We had President Trump held a rally, and there was a lot of people inside, but there was a lot of people outside, and there was a lot of protesting. So we're going to show this video that says police use tear gas, pepper spray on protesters outside Donald Trump rally. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to show you one specific use that we really appreciate.
And well, the goal for the police was to keep the protesters separated from the Trump supporters, and they were largely successful. This street right here was a kind of dividing line, but when Trump wrapped up, that's when the trouble started. There were 4 people arrested by the end of the night. Thankfully, no one was injured. Well, it started out as a peaceful protest for thousands outside the Phoenix Convention Center. Tensions in some areas quickly escalated into pockets of chaos following President Trump's speech. Groups of both Trump supporters and detractors began shouting chants at each other. Violence erupted as what appeared to be a protester throwing punches at a Trump supporter riding in the back of a pickup truck. Protesters down the street outside of the convention center started hurling objects at police, and they decided it was time to quickly disperse the crowd. We heard bangs, and then quickly thereafter felt the effects of tear gas.
I saw someone right next to me being hit in the lip with a rubber pellet, bleeding very profusely. He had a bandage to cover the blood. Afterwards, they fired more and more tear gas until everyone dispersed.
During a press conference overnight, city officials denied that rubber bullets were used and said there was no widespread chaos, blaming the clashes on the protesters who got out of control first.
I wouldn't call it chaos.
It was chaos. Believe me, I was in the middle of it.
So those are your words. I'm not going to use those words. What I will say in preparation, that we were prepared, we were decisive, and we were immediately responsive. I received the information that we were tear gas first.
Earlier, President Trump told the crowd of his supporters there was no cause to worry outside.
Just so you know, from the Secret Service, there aren't too many people outside protesting, okay? That I can tell you.
Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton was concerned that the scenes we saw play out in Charlottesville, Virginia, would play out here in Phoenix. This morning, there's relief that that kind of violence was avoided. Guys, back to you.
Stephanie Goskin, Phoenix for us. Thank you.
All right. So You know, you heard the chief of police of Phoenix say that we were tear gassed first.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever heard the police say that before, that they were tear gassed first.
Yeah, these Antifa people are fascists. They're criminals. They're terrorists.
Well, Antifa are supposed to be anti-fascist.
Right, but they are. You know, you can't be anti-fascist and then engage in fascist behavior, for God's sake. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But they're showing up with weapons. They're showing up with pepper spray. They're making modified flamethrowers with aerosol cans, and then free. You know, I think in Boston, they had buckets or bottles of urine.
They were doing that. The Black Bloc and Anarchy, they were doing that during the DNC in 2000 in L.A.
I don't remember. I remember throwing urine.
No, they had it.
I remember that.
The intelligence said they were preparing it. I don't recall it being thrown, but I remember they were saying the intelligence said they were preparing it.
Well, it did in Boston, and I give the police chief a lot of credit because when the dang journalists, for God's sakes, it's hard to even call these guys journalists because they're all activists now. But when he said it was chaos, no, it wasn't chaos.
Was that a journalist that said that?
Yeah, it was controlled, and they were ready for it. And then when it was time to take action, they were decisive. And that's exactly
that was her word too. She said we were prepared, responsive, and decisive.
That's
I like
right.
that.
And that's exactly what I saw. And that's exactly what you haven't seen in Berkeley. You haven't seen it. You've seen it in Oregon. Or Portland PD don't mess around with those guys either. But there's been certain parts of the country and certain law enforcement agencies have been told to stand down to allow these guys to let the crowd blow off steam or whatever. We'll deal with the cost later. But when you start getting violent with people, that the law enforcement has to step in. They didn't in Berkeley, and they didn't in other police jurisdictions, but in that one they sure did. And when they did, they took care of biz.
Well, and they said that they were tear gas first, and you can buy chemical agents.
Right.
It's usually not the police grade stuff, the government grade stuff, but you can buy it. But see, what they don't understand is police officers get trained and equipped. And just kind of are very prepared to deal with this sort of thing, from everybody having good gas masks, not Army surplus gas masks that haven't been tested properly, et cetera. And you have strength in numbers. And there's little tricks that we use. Like one of the tricks is, and I'll put this out there, is usually the police will launch smoke first. Okay? And it's not tear gas. Usually it's smoke, but people think it's tear gas, and so that helps scare away some of the people who are like, oh my God, I don't want to get tear gas.
Right.
So they run. But it has two other purposes too. It's got three purposes. First, the psychological purpose. That smoke goes out there, people think it's tear gas, you lose half your crowd. It also helps determine the direction of the wind. So now we can see which way the smoke is blowing, which is really the reason you use it. And so now we know where to put the tear gas to make it blow across the crowd, right? Here's a third reason. When the gas gets deployed, the smoke will help carry it, and it'll help it stick to you better. Everything else, right? So police officers know this. Police officers have certain chemical agents, like on a federal level, like the National Guard level. If the National Guard gets called out and they have to deploy tear gas, they have tear gas with different things in it. They have some that have like a lacrimator in it that makes you cry, right? But they actually have some, and this is used for like extreme civil unrest situations, that have what they call a vomit kicker. That's it. That's the nickname. I don't know what the real medical term is, but it's called a vomit kicker, which means that that tear gas hits you to make you throw up, okay? And that tends to take the fight out of people, they found. That probably makes for a lot of cleanup mess.
When you're upchucking.
When you're upchucking, you don't really want to be fighting and chanting slogans and stuff.
So, wait a second.
Yeah, you're throwing up on your shoes. You probably don't really feel like fighting. So all that's there. But there was one particular use of a pepper ball round that we really appreciated that was caught on video. And so what happens? You had one of these guys who came prepared to counter what the police were doing.
Right.
He had on a gas mask. He had a bottle of water in his hand, which is probably for decontamination purposes. And when the police deployed a tear gas grenade, he kicked it back toward the police. Those things burn hot, okay? So he knew better than to try to pick it up.
Right.
But he, with the toe of his shoe or boot or whatever the hell he had on, he kicked it back toward the police. And then he was dealt with. So let's roll that video, and we'll try not to laugh during the recap of it. All right, so we're going to play this again. And what you see is this gentleman here kick back that tear gas toward the police. He's got the gas mask on, so he came ready to play. He's got a bottle of water in his hand. And then, bam! And that's why they call them pepper balls. That's why they call them pepper balls, because now he's got a bad case of the pepper balls. So he gets hit, he gets dropped, he's rolling around in agony. And Colin Kaepernick comes off to rescue. Oh, that's somebody in the Kaepernick jersey. I thought Kaepernick got a job. All right,
he was out there.
So he went, and there's a Phoenix PD in mass coming with the shields and et cetera, et cetera. So the first person I know to post this is a friend of mine who works for Phoenix PD, and he was actually there in that formation you just saw, and he said the Grenadier was to his left. The Grenadier who launched that, the Grenadier is the officer we call who uses the launchable munitions, whatever they are. That officer's called the Grenadier. And that officer fired that pepper ball round and just hit him right in the pito, like, pow! It was beautiful, though, because you saw the dust, right?
Yeah.
And so it's filled with OC powder, pepper spray powder, basically. And it's a fine enough powder that it's not powder like salt or sugar. It's powder like powdered sugar, which is why you got that vapor cloud when it hit him, right? So you can imagine, not only is that embedded itself in the fabric of his clothes, probably down to his underwear, then you got that cloud wafting up under your clothes. You're out there, you're sweating. If you're wet at all, then it's going to get in your pores, et cetera, et cetera. And man, that was such a precise. If you look that thing up on YouTube, people have remixed it to music, where he's falling and getting back up, and they show him from another angle like he's dancing as he's getting hit. Oh man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Oh
but
my gosh.
Hey, this is what happens, man. This is what happens. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Yeah, and you know, if you the video that I saw goes a little bit longer, and it actually zoomed in on him. He was laying on the sidewalk because Colin Kaepernick took him off the street.
Yeah, it took him off the field.
He was laying and he was rolling around. He was in pain.
Oh, I bet.
From the blunt trauma of that hitting in his groin.
That's okay. So this thing it's hard packed powder. Okay, it's not like you can't shake these things and hear the powder rattling around inside. It is hard packed, and it's got like a polymer cover, like a plastic cover over it, right? So it's about the size of what a large marble, I think is what it would be, right? Not the size of a golf ball, smaller than that, but about the size of a large marble. And it's hard too. And man, that thing hits you. That thing comes out of that barrel. I don't know how many feet per second it's traveling.
I think I read it was 300 feet per second. Those things move at.
Yeah. And so that thing hits you 300 feet per second, enough for that plastic to shatter when it hits you,
right? And
release that pepper in the air, that pepper powder in the air, and man, that had to hurt.
Drop homeboy like a sack of potatoes.
Oh my God! You see that? How he just dropped? He dropped like he was shot with a rifle, and then he's rolling around, and then he didn't even try to get up at first, right? He's just laying there,
yeah,
like what just happened?
Yep.
Because he thought the gas mask was going to protect him.
Hello.
And he probably went online or went to the Army surplus and paid extra for the gas mask. You should have gone to Sport Chalet and got a cup.
He thought he was straight. You know, he had his big old backpack.
Oh, he was ready.
Lord only knows what that is.
Right, he got his Antifa supplies in the backpack.
And then he had his gas mask, and he was only wearing tennis shoes, so, you know.
That way he could get around, he could, you know.
But, you know, he kicked the canister, and he turned to go, but then he turned around and faced the cops again.
Because who knows what he's going to do at that point.
Yeah.
Now you're faced with it. So you're going to run back and try to kick it again? No, you're not, because pink, you're going to get dropped. Somebody said he posted a video of himself in the hospital, and I guess he was getting treated for whatever.
Oh, good.
You know. Yeah. Hey, man, I love it. And I like the fact that it's become an internet meme.
Yeah.
Where people are getting a good laugh at his expense. I mean, you know. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think the general public, you know, you and I tend to pay more attention to news and stuff like that than most people do.
Right.
And most people don't pay as much attention.
Most people get their news from Facebook.
They see whatever people are posting and they go, oh, I think I'm informed. But I think that the general public, in general, I think they're just tired. You know, I think whatever you think of Trump or the election or whatever, whatever you think about that, I think the general public, just in general, unless you're a lefty or something that can't get over the fact that he's the president, but for the rest of the population, they're just tired. And so when you see something like this, you go, you laugh. Number one.
Oh yeah.
But number two, you kind of go, man, thank goodness. When I saw that, I said, man, look at Phoenix PD.
Well, Phoenix don't play around.
Taking care of biz in the way that other police departments aren't allowed to.
People should understand that about Phoenix, Arizona.
I give that
they don't
chief.
play.
I didn't know they had a female chief. I give that chief a lot.
Neither
of credit
did I. I didn't
for allowing their for having them ready to take care of biz, and
Prepared,
then allowing them to take care of business when they had to.
And decisive.
That's right. And that ended the protest right quick.
Well, because now people are like, not only because people are thinking, oh, I got my gas mask, so they throw that canister. I'm not too bothered about that. I got my bottle of water. I can decon myself and all that. But that pepper ball, what you got for that?
Yeah. They hadn't counted on that.
They hadn't counted on that.
They got to go back to Antifa terrorism
Antifa boot
school.
camp. They got to go back to Antifa Academy.
Yeah, they need better instructors, for God's sake.
Yeah, right.
They should come to SGI.
Right, exactly, and we'll show them how to not do stupid shit like that. But you just got to be ready, man. Got to be ready. So.
Oh my God. That made my night.
I loved it. I loved it.
That made up for the other video.
Oh, the first one?
Yeah.
So we have a story we've been following. We got time for one more video, and I guess this is coming to a head here. The situation with the last call with the what's his name, Congressman Weiner from San Francisco, no less, who is proposing that each city in California be allowed to set their own last call, because right now last call, a lot of people think it's 2:00 in the morning. It is not 2:00 in the morning per the Alcohol Beverage Control Code,
ABC.
The ABC code. The last call is 2 hours after midnight. Now you may say, well, hell, that's 2:00 in the morning. What's the difference? The difference is daylight savings time. They don't want people to think they had an extra hour to drink.
Right.
So it's just 2 hours after midnight is when last call is now. So they want to have this bill that will extend it, and each city can decide when it could go up to 4:00. It's not like 24 hours like Vegas or anything, but you can go up to 4. So we have this video. We're going to show this video. We're going to talk about that on our way out.
There is an effort now to keep the bars open later here in L.A. Some people want last call extended until 4 a.m., but opponents say that could lead to more drunk drivers. KCAL9's Cara Finstrom talked to people on both sides.
If you're going to the Oscars, the Emmys, the Grammys, you're probably going to be ending up in West Hollywood. And when you say you have to go home at 2:00, they just want to celebrate a little bit more.
Bar owner David Cooley wants last calls across the Southland to take place later. So does the Central City Association. It says letting bars and nightclubs stay open later would invigorate downtown nightlife.
People could choose to stay later in downtown restaurants and venues. There would be more jobs, more local revenue, and more chances for downtown businesses to thrive.
Today, supporters of the Local Act spoke out. If it passes, California bars, nightclubs, and restaurants would be able to extend their last calls up until 4 a.m.
This bill fundamentally is about local control. No community will be forced to allow their bars and nightclubs to go past 2 a.m. Every community will be able to decide for itself.
San Francisco Senator Scott Weiner wrote the bill. It's already passed in the Senate, is headed for the Assembly, and is facing stiff opposition. Earlier this year, protesters at LA City Hall said they worried the staggered last call times we'd see between communities could lead to more late-night bar hopping and drunk driving. Sunny Skyhawk's granddaughter was 21 when she was killed by a drunk driver.
It's a heartache that never heals, unfortunately, and you take it with you the rest of your life.
The bill would not affect liquor stores. The Assembly is expected to vote on it during the next few weeks. From downtown.
Man, I like that margarita they kept showing.
Yeah.
They kept sloshing that margarita with that salt on that rim. But no, and that's not to denigrate or try to minimize the effect of drunk driving. And actually, to my boys up in Modesto PD, they just lost one of their own. Sergeant off duty riding a bicycle, was just getting his exercise, was hit by a drunk driver and killed about this time last night, actually. So, yeah, my heart goes out to my people up there, Taylor and Joe, all the rest of the cats up there. So but this is something I think is long overdue, just in terms of each city being able to determine. It doesn't mean that we're forcing you to let your bars stay up until 4, but some cities did derive a large part of their income off of that, and that's which is good because it's going to be needed to pay for the extra enforcement for the additional calls you're going to have or whatever. But you come out of a movie theater, you come out of an award show, you come out of a concert, and then you have however long to whatever. I think we need to. People complain about the nanny state, but then we want to restrict when people can drink. And you go to a place like Las Vegas, where there's 24 hours where you can drink. You can go in a bar at 6 o'clock in the morning and get something to drink.
Right.
5 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know that they have any more problems with drunk driving, but a lot of those people are pedestrians, aren't they?
Right.
Then you also have a place like, I was in New Orleans last year, and man, we are literally in a car driving, and people have drinks in the car. And I mean glass. Okay, we're driving.
Not red cups.
No, not red cups. We got people with glasses sitting in the car drinking. Man, we're driving through the Lower Garden District, and man, you hear an ice clinking in the back seat because people are drinking. The driver has got a bottle of beer, and we're just driving, and people are drinking, and but it's not illegal there. It's illegal to drive drunk, but you can drink while you drive in the state of Louisiana. You just can't be drunk while you drive.
Wow.
So. And the POTUS is shaking her head like, what the hell is that?
I mean, no sense.
Hey, I seen it. I done it. I'm telling you, I was there. Okay? But that's how they do.
That don't make no good sense.
I was blown away by it, but I thought I'd take advantage of it for once in my life. I'd be able to. I'd get a chance to do it. So that's what we did.
I know when I was in
I felt like a downright criminal.
I was in New Orleans pre-Katrina. And, I was surprised to see people walking down the street and little beer stands.
Sure.
You just walk up and get a beer and
walk on. You can do the same thing in Vegas, though.
Man.
You can do the same thing on Beale Street in Memphis. You can walk on the street and drinking whatever, going from bar to bar with a drink in your hand. They don't care.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. In the city of cars like LA County.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Uber's probably pushing this. Uber's probably pushing the hell out of it. Because that means 2 more hours of work for Uber drivers.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Kelly Hall, whoever Kelly Hall was.
That the lady who was in charge of
Central City.
Central City. She's the president of the Central City Association.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was all right.
I don't know what she's talking about, but
she looked almost as good as that margarita.
I don't know why she wanted everybody driving around all drunk around LA City.
Hey, she's just trying to generate tax revenue.
All right.
That's all. So listen, leave your comments about that story down here in the YouTube comment section.
Yeah, that'd be a no.
I think it's going to pass.
It's 2:00. I know. I don't know what they talked about. Meeting stiff opposition from the California Assembly. Are you kidding? They're all goddamn commies.
Well, some people are against it, but I don't know why they care. Like they said, it's about local control. If you don't want to do that in Whittier, don't do it in Whittier. But in Pico Rivera, we staying up till 4. So
Lord help them. You get a bunch of drunk Mexicans.
There we go.
Till 4:00 in the morning.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
Better get the sheriffs.
I know, we're gonna close on that.
Extended checkpoints.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do.
So listen, follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. All Right Along Radio Show. Okay. Yeah. And if you have any suggestions for topics, you got a question you want to ask, you can either leave it in the YouTube section, comment section, leave it on Facebook, or send us an email, rightalongradioshow@gmail.com. So, until the next time we are on the air together, I am George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras.
And this has been Right Along Radio.